Thank you.
Moving on to public input, we have no public input this evening. Moving with business items, we have one item, presentation, discussion, and consideration to move forward in creating a memorandum of understanding between the Families for Philanthropy Foundation and the City of Las Vegas. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. I think we all know why we're here. I'll spare a few words and get right into the presentation by members of the Family for Philanthropists that are here. Welcome and thank you for, thank you for being here and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come to Las Vegas. And welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we start?
Take it away.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna go to this, the clerk's display.
Council members, thank you very much for your time. Again, we wish for everyone's safety. I know it's been a lot of adjustments while we're going through just learning how to support and help. So again, as a member of Families for Philanthropy, our ultimate goal is not to have this as a presentation. It's more of a collaboration. We represent a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization. And a lot of the questions that we've received in the past have been more guided towards a formal traditional process of a for-profit. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear that we're answering the call, and that call was through a couple letters that were sent to support the efforts of the water. Adjustments that were made were taken swiftly, and that was heeding a very community-focused approach. Our mission here at Families for Philanthropy is really simple. It's three parts. It's families that are focused on growing their community. It is the planet itself, so climate change. And it's also the animals that are affected, the surrounded areas. So it's a really simple people, planet, and animals approach. That intersection is very similar to for-profit, nonprofit, and government, how we all have to collaborate together. So that's our goal. Starting with the water issue, this is where we're just going to dive into. Our agenda is absolutely just to present what we've heard as the need through having conversations with the community, but more importantly, how it represents taking action. In our opinion, you can decide to go for or against, but also the third is if you're not saying anything or not taking action, that's actually a vote all in itself. And so our goal is to vote with our feet, which is why we're here today. And we did make the pass. Raton Pass was nice and dry, coming down from Denver, Colorado.
In time.
Just in time. Yeah. And so we've already taken the action, and there's a temporary solution that's in place. That support actually came from our Family Philanthropy, our nonprofit foundation. We made calls to our corporate sponsors and developers, and also commercial development, I'll call them vendors, and implemented this. Closer to my mouth, got it. No cereal for me. But that call was absolutely because of the relationship and having a family that's immigrated from the 1870s to come to the United States. I'm standing as one of them, as a third generation recipient of what this land can bring. And we have to respect that. And so this directional support, it all comes through what's the tactical support that we can bring. We've brought a temporary solution, but now we're asking for the council members' support in laying out a collaborative plan that makes sense. So what we suggest is actually a two-tiered approach. One tier is all of the items that are on the priority list to list those out. And then the second tier are the secondary priority lists. And we believe that, is that us or? Oh, it's Richard.
Just stay on the clerks.
I'm going to pass this over to Doug Duncan. This is really important to us, and we're here to answer just a few basic questions of why we're here. Hopefully that was accomplished, which is one, we're representing a family foundation focused on people, planet, and animals. And then two, what's in it for us? It's helping out the community. We don't believe in the borderlines, and we understand that there's a massive problem at hand, and we'd like to help.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks for making time again, Mayor and Council people. I've been doing this for 35 years, and as Michael said, this is the fun stuff. We're just being a teammate in this environment, and more than anything, we just wanted to talk to you about some of the things we've done in the past and how we've approached them. A lot of these projects that are highlighted are very rural. They're very remote. They're in very much the same situation where there's almost no housing or significant deficit. And so these are just high-level examples, just to give you kind of ideas of what we've done in the past. The project on the right is in Williston, North Dakota. So it honestly is something very similar to this situation that you guys are in with the limited housing, and we were able to work with the city, expedite approval, and this is an 812-acre development just north of the city. It's in the city limits. But what it did is we had a large park, large sports facility in the middle, the retail, multifamily, as well as single family, multifamily, affordable workforce housing, and so that's kind of what we see as how do we get future generations to come back? How do we get the population to turn and start to build the community and thus bring more amenities for your community? And so a lot of these slides are kind of unique and just different ones. There's some work that we did in Wyoming that was the total site was about 238,000 acres, so pretty significant. But we did a lot of the same where it's workforce housing. A lot of those projects were oil driven. The one in like the upper right is kind of a very dense, it could provide like possibly even like student housing as an option, a very affordable product that's probably about, interestingly, it's only 1,500 square foot, 2-story building. So very efficient is a way of saying it. And so we've worked with a lot of golf courses. We work with a lot of land planners in that arena. We've had some phenomenal meetings with both Luna and Highlands as well as with the city. And so we're here to, again, just dialogue. And so we're not telling you you need a massive golf course and that's going to be the solution. So we're here to help. And some of the other products that we've.
Can I just ask a question? That West Line Village?
Yeah.
Where is that located?
That's in Lakewood, Colorado.
Lakewood.
Yeah.
And that's also your development?
It is. And this is my joke internal, is that it's 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. I mean, that is as efficient of a development as you can ever get. It's really laid out to be maximum affordable housing. So that's what that product, and it's won significant awards.
And talk a little bit about climate and some of the construction that you used in that housing development. As you know, our water supply is very short and very very sensitive at this time. And so I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about how you constructed it to be energy efficient and water efficient.
Yeah, we are very focused on the green. This, as I said, this project won many awards. This entire property was xeriscaped, so very minimal landscaping, mostly trees. And so all of the units, they were designed to lead, specifications, so they all are really optimizing current standards so that every single, appliance, furnace, water heater, et cetera, every single thing in this was very efficient in how it was designed and really, in essence, to almost be zero, net. This project in specific, we've done a significant amount of solar, wind, on this one, we didn't have the property. There's a light rail stop right by that, which is a train station, so people commuting to downtown. So that's why this was critical for two things. It was the workforce housing, but it also allowed people to walk to the train and then jump on that and be in downtown Denver, I think, in 8 minutes.
And are these houses
They're-
on city utility?
They're all on city utility, and these are each individual homes. So these are individual homeowners for each of these homes.
Okay.
Like I said, very efficient, but it's beautiful. And
And how about large ranch?
large ranch.
Isn't that?
Oh, Legay Ranch. Oh, I'm sorry. Legay is a it's
okay,
yeah
I'm
it's a development in South. It's in Douglas County, and so
In Colorado?
in Colorado, and this is one where we did have a golf course. This is like an 1,800 acre development, significant number of homes. This had a lot of multifamily product with it. So this is another thing that we kind of highlighted with the city when we met with them. But we do a lot of pre-manufactured housing, and kind of what our dialogue was. Again, we weren't saying any direction, but what it was is to what if we were to do more pre-manufactured housing, which can be, apartments, it can be single-family homes, and it can be patio homes. You can have an apartment building constructed, fully erected, within roughly 30 to 60 days. So starting to once the foundation and the roads are in and the infrastructure is there, but that's a game changer, especially when you have a limited workforce, and that's what we keep hearing in every one of our meetings in Las Vegas is that it's everywhere, but it's an application that really has velocity to start to get the city, as we said, growing in population and people moving back here and people going to college and becoming more of a technical destination, wanting education as a driver. Obviously, beautiful colleges here.
And where is West Glen?
West Glen is that's kind of western Denver.
Okay.
So this was one we had a lot of open space. It was basically land we couldn't develop on. It was contaminated, so we were able to utilize that into a large park, which we also discussed with the city is one of our greatest fortes, and I think 26 projects I've done in New Mexico are large sports facilities, like with synthetic turf fields, rec centers, soccer fields, those type of things. So this is another one where the VOTEC, the 2-year college, as I said, we've had really good meetings, and resounding feedback was, let's get people, out employed and earning an income. This Cherry Creek Innovation Campus, I would highly suggest that you just Google. It's one of the most successful poster examples of really a very successful VOTEC school. They built the exact campus in Phoenix. But if you were to walk, when you Google this, it's mind-blowing. It is stunning. It's beautiful inside. They have like massive stairs, but people sit on them and study on them, and it's just this really open, well-lit environment. But they have diesel mechanics, they have aviation mechanics, culinary, nursing. I think there's like computer science.
Is it a state school?
It's through the Cherry Creek School District, so it would be funded through the state. So it's not a state college. It's a auxiliary school to a very large high school that's in the Denver region, and I think that's exactly how they set it up in Phoenix also. The CMC is Colorado Mountain College. We just finished 6 of these projects. All the buildings look basically the same, but they were all pre-manufactured housing because they were in Steamboat, Aspen. Well, it's Glenwood Springs, so it's 30 miles away from Aspen. Breckenridge, Glenwood Springs, and trying to think. There's 9 campuses for Colorado Mountain College, but anyway, we just completed this a month ago, all for student housing. And then the Emily Griffiths is like a block from our office in Denver, and that is a full mechanic school. And again, extremely successful success story on that project. It's great.
Doug, do you think you can share, since this sounds like a lot of Colorado in this present, what have we accomplished together in New Mexico?
Yeah, in New Mexico, it's kind of interesting. Like I just shared with Leo today, is it's sort of a we do sports facilities, a lot of college stadiums. We've done 250 college stadiums across the country. But I don't know. I can read these, but the projects that we've just won is like in Gallup. We got a $4 million outdoor high school athletic facility. Zuni Reservation School District is $10 million developing additional school and athletic facilities. Newcomb School, $4 million. We got a drainage and modify and athletic facility. Shiprock. So each of these are about $4 million, but we did Shiprock, Cuba, Las Cruces. We did a massive kind of development, which was all patio homes on the area. Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Sandy, let's see, Los Lunas, Lynn, Farmington, Dulce, Taos. I never say this one right. Bouquet. Yeah, sorry. Say that one wrong. Los Alamos, a couple there, Clovis, Roswell, another one in Las Cruces, Silver City, Deming, Esperanza.
In
Los Alamos, was that a sports complex or was it a housing complex?
That was a $5 million school athletic facility.
Okay.
So that's just 26 jobs in New Mexico alone. So thank you, Michael, for just so you don't think we're.
Mr. Romero?
Real quick on the school districts, Yala, Powake, all those. So are you doing it through your nonprofit, or you have a construction company that builds those fields? Or
So these are direct with the school. We're being hired. So the school is hiring us based on our expertise. Does that answer the question? I want to make sure I'm answering your.
Yeah, because I could have sworn that it was Cordova and those guys that did.
We do a lot of design build. So again, this is all about expediting, and especially this is a great question because if you think about athletics, you sort of have a really weird limited window because when they want to be used is when you want to build them.
Yeah.
So you're trying to design in off seasons, and then you're trying to build in a very small window in either the spring or the fall when sports are reduced, or you can start to plan accordingly to have maybe all the home games and, halfway through the season. So it's a great example. So that's a really good question.
So,
Do you have a construction company or do you contract?
We contract that out.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So that's the dual track that we suggested on.
The dual track is on the left side is your traditional RFP and going through the design, making sure you pull the proper permits, land, reports, appraisals. On the right side is what we're proposing as a nonprofit. And as that nonprofit, we're able to collaborate with, and I'm going to just speed ahead to, and I'll go back to some of the corporate companies that we're already working with. And that allows us to identify earmarked funds and place projects in a priority list, again, back to tier 1 and tier 2 priorities, so that we can execute across a very simple approach. A, what does the community need today? As we answered already with the water solution, that was extremely important. That needed to be acted upon immediately. So that timeline was, I'll say, sub 60 days. B is going to be what priorities are on the docket and how can we help collaborate and build it together, meaning the process, not the actual physical construction. So I want to make sure that that line is delineated extremely because we understand our process is to support from the right side of the rail. And as we place that cart on top, then we can move in the right direction. That's what we call directional alignment. So I hope some of these are standing out, such as Fidelity Charitable. That's our donor advised fund platform. RSM is one of the biggest consulting firms out of the big 5. They're number 5. And I'm going to go back to, these are the bullet points that we thought we heard from last time, which is not just the support in building out the regional airport. 2 was to bring more commercial and industrial opportunities, not just through jobs, but through rebuilding the infrastructure and bringing the university, whether it's Luna or Highlands, back up to speed. And again, driving down, we saw the student center, which there's going to be mixed opinions, and we understand that, which is why going through the master planning process is to collect as much information from the subcommittees, such as the special counsel, and just to go into detail of what's the most important. And then last,
You've seen our master plan yet?
we have, yes. We've studied that in the economic development. So the report was very comprehensive, but it was done 2 years ago, so we want to make sure that we checked back in to see if some of those items are still relevant. I know that was before pre-pandemic and also pre-fires. And I can list a couple of the items that were on there that we thought would make sense, but it's really about listening. So this rural innovation is really about housing, from single-family workforce housing all the way through to the, I'll call it mixed use.
So we can talk briefly about the airport, I think, is just you have a hidden gem in your airport. I mean, obviously, so much infrastructure is in place. We want to make sure we're looking ahead in how we design it, and we're being mindful of how to capitalize on that and bring jobs to the community. And so we have Richard. Richard's our airport guru, and so I will see if can you go ahead and try to speak here, Richard. See if we can hear you.
We're muted, he's froze.
Oh, he's muted.
Oh, he's muted.
So are we?
Is that me or you?
I think so are we.
It's supposed to.
There.
There he is.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Richard?
Richard, can you hear us?
Nope.
This is not muted.
Richard, can you hear us?
Okay.
Loud and clear.
So Richard, this is Doug. I was just handing you the baton here, handing you the mic, and letting you kind of high level talk about some of the airport, some of your thoughts.
About the airport. Want to run that by me once again? It didn't come in real clear.
Oh yeah, we're just bantering some thoughts and some ideas, but wanted your expertise on the airport.
Yeah, I can high level it for you. I think probably the best place to start is what's going on in the industry, in the aviation industry. High level, it is global climate change is driving a lot of technological changes. We see this right now with sustainable aviation fuels and this push to clean energy. In fact, one of the projects that I'm working on is called Zero Impact Aviation, and we're looking at aviation, all aspects of aviation, not just the aircraft that are flying, but how aircraft are controlled. We're also looking at the infrastructure supporting all of that, and it's a Herculean task. NASA, FAA are involved, as are all the legacy aviation companies, all the aerospace companies. Everyone's on board to kind of push the industry into the beyond the 21st century, if you will. But it has to start with our current infrastructure, and that infrastructure is going to necessarily need to be modified in the next 5-10 years to accommodate these new technologies. And let's start with the sustainable aviation fuels. Sustainable aviation fuels are manifold, but let's look at hydrogen, for example. Hydrogen fuel cells, liquid hydrogen, gaseous hydrogen. These are fuels that legacy aerospace companies are looking to utilize in their current offerings. current engine designs. And they're designing engines more specifically for these alternative fuels. Electricity battery powered is being assessed as well. In fact, for the past 5 years, the primary effort at NASA Aeronautics has been to assess electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. This is distributed propulsion. Multiple. You probably see these in the news where there's multiple engines. There are electrical engines. They're quieter aircraft. They utilize less fuel. They're more efficient. And these are concepts that NASA and others are exploring heavily. We're seeing this in Europe and in Asia. The drive is on for them as well to push these technologies forward.
Thank you, Richard.
Enough, it's
Sorry,
not just
I'm going to cut you
aviation.
off real quick. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to ask the city council what they had on the docket in plans for the airport. So what are your plans today as it regards to the Las Vegas, New Mexico Municipal Airport?
Well, Mr. Montoya sits on the airport committee, and we have a couple of members that are here from the committee. Maybe they can highlight this, but it was just for the record, it was in our master plan that we would develop the airport. No specific blueprint at the second. No, we of course we want the best of the best. When it comes down to expanding services and making sure that our airport suffices for this region, but I would also say that we would like for it to become somewhat of a hub for connection to places like Colorado, Texas, those types of customers. So becoming a hub in northern New Mexico, and then the fact that the railway is right next to the airport is another thing that has always intrigued me. How can we expand the relationship between the rail and the airport? But we have a hardworking committee, and some of these people have been on the committee for a long time, and maybe they would like to chime in, but that was some of the vision that I had. For now, there's no actual blueprint or to say, we want to build 16 hangars on the west side or whatever. I don't believe we have come to that point in making those decisions as to how we would expand the airport.
Mr. Billingsley, I'll yield the floor to you if you want to say a few words, and then I'll give my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm the chairman of the Airport Advisory Committee. I've been flying into this airport for close to 50 years. We have a really beautiful facility. What we don't have is very much traffic. We do have a fair amount of NetJet type aircraft that come in either for people that are coming to their own personal ranches, and then people that are maybe hunting or visiting their friends that have ranches and other recreational opportunities. So that's, I guess, the current traffic is, I'd say, predominantly turboprops and small jets. We do have, we only have actually 3 based piston aircraft, and there's not a lot of traffic. We do have daily flights for UPS has a daily flight bringing packages, and so that's kind of the current traffic situation. A very underutilized airport. We have certain problems, particularly infrastructure related. We don't have a water supply line up to the airport, and so that the domestic water that's available at the terminal building is basically hauled up in a bobtail truck. We don't have any sewer service. There's what we have is basically leach field, septic tanks and leach fields for the terminal building. Finally, and I hate to keep harping on it, but the wastewater department has a sludge disposal facility adjacent to the airport. They don't even have water for their employees to be able to wash their hands, and so or any kind of facilities. So we've got very limited infrastructure in place, and those are some of the kind of key things that I see as being, the kind of number one needs that we have. Going forward, if we had ideas of how to increase the traffic, then we might be able to comment a little better on what facilities would be appropriate. But and if you guys had questions, or obviously the council had questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Bielenstein.
Microphone, Mike.
You know,
Thank you very much. That was extremely helpful.
in
Mr.
past
Montoya?
years, in past years, we've used that airport also for emergency fire response for airplanes, for sludge planes. And also this last fire, we had them probably for about a month or so. They were working out of there, the U.S. Forestry and so forth. The other thing is, we're trying to get a water line up there, but it is expensive, and it does have to cross the railroad tracks, and that's another hurdle that we gotta run through. But so far, this administration has paid attention to the airport committee. We have right now at the present time put in quite a bit of money into the upgrading of the lighting and the signage, and also we've done some work to the runways. And to my understanding, this is one of the best airports in the nation, actually. And they tell me that big planes can fly in there. The president's plane can fly in there.
Yes, you can land a 777 from our homework assignment.
As far as the future of it, I'm concerned as to what exactly where we're heading with this presentation. If this is about building parts for other countries or for our nation, or is it training for having to do with training in between the United World College the Luna College or New Mexico Highlands University. And as far as the housing, I'm concerned, are we proposing housing out there, or are we proposing housing like at the golf course, or I'm kind of leery as to where we're going with all this.
Yeah, we'll answer directly. Our goal is to collaborate and support from the right-hand side of our nonprofit, which is, again, our 501c3. So we are not, for the record, building a Jetsons. We're not looking to do that because, one, it's not for us to decide. Two, it's our absolute mission and goal to focus on people, planet, and animals. Within that mission is why we are here today. So our goal is I can fast forward to the very end, which is a really simple we're proposing that we collaborate with the city of Las Vegas, New Mexico, alongside our conversations with Luna and Highlands. We understand that there are subcommittees and the Board of Regents that we would really want to hear from as well. And we're proposing a special committee as a task force to assign and prioritize the list. So did we answer the question
Yeah.
that we're,
And,
why we're here?
you know, part of our future thinking also is we're not counting out the airport as a northern part regional training facility for our fire department. That's one location out of 2 or 3 other ones that we're looking at. So, you know, we do want to, like Mr. Billingsley say, you know, if we can get more traffic in here like Taos does, I mean, good for us. But right now, we're just trying to maintain with what we got.
Understood. And what we hear very loud and clear is that there's efficiencies and inefficiencies. The inefficiencies are what we would like to support. And then on the efficient side, how can we bring the right teams that can also create that traffic? The traffic is going to come when the infrastructure is there. It's like a gas station, and something that we brought up was EV charging. That's something that we're doing across the country and globe, just because that's happening as the hot swaps. And what that simply means is there's not enough parking spaces as it stands today versus how many electric vehicles are going to be on the road tomorrow. But you're not going to pull up to a Shell right now and just sit there for 15 minutes or 20 or 30 or 40. It makes more sense in a stadium when there's a council meeting and someone wishes to plug in their electric vehicle. We would like to bring that as a proposal to the committee right now to say we can help. We work with one of the largest manufacturers of EV charging stations in the world. And that's something we can accomplish in a very short amount of time.
Mr. Mayor. I did have a comment. So on your contracting, do you do in-state contracting or out-of-state? You bring your own people from out-of-state or do in-state?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Miss,
Go ahead. Did you have another question?
Yeah, and just to bring it out, you know, we here at the city of Las Vegas in itself have probably like 52 vacant openings. And NMBHI has probably, what, 300 vacant openings? So where would we reach out to get the workforce to do any kind of development? You know, those are the kind of challenges that we face. I'm just throwing it out there.
We did have that conversation with with Leo today, and that's the conversation that I think is interesting based on some of the work we did in Williston, North Dakota. There was no staff, and so it was basically we had to bring in, you know, the workforce, and we had to find a way to provide housing. And so already with the city, we're kind of talking with them on the what if scenarios. If we had 300 laborers come into the city to perform the water main extension, the sewer main extension, some, you know, enhancements to the city, how would we start to, you know, I know Mary Lee has a lot of, you know, there's a lot of hotels available. So yes, we're beginning those conversations of like saying, I've seen it and it works, and this is some of the things that we've done in the past to help it make it work. But yes, it's together being creative.
and then I'll send it over to Mr. Romero. But one thing that you know we did talk about was development of the airport and the jobs that are going to be needed, the skills that are going to be needed to work on energy efficiency and all those things. Talked about doing a possibly a collaboration between New Mexico Highlands University and Luna to do a 2-year degree in this type of technology. So when someone graduates, they have a job here, and we would develop our own workforce, and our kids wouldn't have to leave the community to go get a better job somewhere else. We would have this certification program, and we would work with colleges, and there would be no reason for them to leave to get another job, good paying job somewhere else. And so that was something that interested me in our earlier conversations. But if you might want to comment on that, and then Mr. Romero will have the floor.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we met with both Luna and Highlands today on. But it's the mission for education and also for created revenue streams. And that revenue stream comes not just from a 2-year workforce housing potential revenue, but also the certification. That certification does not come without challenges, which is safety And also, a lot of them have family that are in the trade schools and they're working multiple jobs. So making sure that there's daycare and also animal care, which is really right at our ethos of people, planet, and animals. And I'll hand it over to Mr. Romero.
Mr. Romero?
Okay, so I'll start off on a couple of things, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Going to the whole, our infrastructure at the airport, Mr. Billingsley, one of our capital outlay projects is to do a fire rapid response program there at the airport. And within that, some of the discussion on that alone is close to, I think, right, Maria, $1 million, $2 million for water infrastructure and stuff like that. So, we're behind the scenes, we're working on those things. I know once we do that, yes, it's for the rapid response fire training facility, but once we have the infrastructure there, the water and that, we can't do anything if we don't have that, and that's one of the main priorities within that project alone. Once we get that, then from there, I see a lot to develop in there, but of course, one step at a time, and that's where this council has to put a priority in. And, if we're gonna make that a priority, let's make that a priority. I think now's the perfect time, based off of the situation that we had this summer. We experienced it firsthand. No showers, no facilities, nothing at the airport for those guys that were hanging out there. They were living in tents, couldn't shower, we didn't have the water for them. Kind of ridiculous, but, that's where we're at today, and then I would urge, council, let's jump on that. I think that's a prime opportunity for that. I'm just kind of, I guess I'm like Councilor Montoya, I thought we were gonna discuss this MOU specifically for the airport, and I'll give you my 2 cents. I think, I wish we were all a 501(c), because then we could do a lot of things that, we wouldn't have to have, cut red tape and go through things like that. But, and I'll tell you, Mr. City Manager, I think there's, RFPs, I was just looking it up, RFPs, and there was another word. But, we can't just fully focus on, because there's many other organizations that would, if the opportunity arose, they'd be interested too, right? We can't just, got to be very careful on walking that fine line with saying, hey, we're going to work with you, without properly putting it out. And, if you're the only one, then, that's good. That's where I think it's hard for us being a government entity, versus if we were just a nonprofit or, things like that. Maybe in other states, I think in other states, there's a little more leniency. That's my kind of concern on this, Mr. Mayor. As far as workforce and stuff like that, and the state is kind of working on it, and I think I invited you guys all to it. That's kind of, as a matter of fact, Mr. Minner's going to be there. Those are the discussions we're going to be, and I would encourage you guys to go, to be a part of it. Basically, we're going to do, sit in a room, all the stakeholders, talk about the jobs that are needed in the future. They'll present workforce, New Mexico Workforce Solutions will present data on the jobs that are needed in specific regions, the 3 regions that this conference is for. And then from there, we get, pretty much, kind of what you're asking for, that you'll do that, but the state's working on it. And I think we just need to collaborate everybody and put that together, because if we, don't, we got to use the state as a resource too, and not just kind of, go out of the box. I really like everything that you've proposed. It just, my thing here is we got to be very careful on walking that fine line where, it's, the procurement process is my kind of.
Absolutely understood.
And I don't know, I can't remember which one, the last presentation I had asked if you guys would look into, what the process would be. I don't know if, Leo, you got that information, or?
On which process, I'm sorry?
On the procurement process, to ensure that we would be following the law, yeah.
I'll have to research it further, but
So how did the MOU come out, I guess, is my whole concern. Like, where did that come from?
So the MOU was a draft that was put together by Mayor Smerly and their organization. It needs to be reviewed by our attorney. There is no financial burden on either, on the city at this point, but we will get clarification on if we need to put out for RFP or sole source or whatever it is.
That's kind of where, it's not about financial burden, it's basically city property and developing city property. If that's the case, we could say any city property open it up to anybody. You kind of get where I'm not trying to pick on you guys, it's just, if somebody else were to come and say, hey, well, we didn't have the opportunity to, we had ideas, but you guys did never open it up to us. So that's kind of where my concern on this is, if that makes sense.
And just to be very clear with each of you, this was in no way meant to be a final MOU. I didn't even want to bring it here because this is completely a draft out of the minds. The only good MOU that we would ever enter into is if we had the opportunity to sit down with a team and develop the MOU. So this MOU was strictly for sample sake. We didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't ask you for an MOU. You volunteered to do the writing of a MOU just to sort of give us a sample of what something would look like. And so besides the procurement process, that's a very good point. And I think Ms. Casey has some points to discuss. Did you have something?
Just echoing, and we absolutely understand that's why the MOU does not list a statement of work or a scope of services, because that is not our intention. Our intention is to elect our nonprofit to work with, and this is how we work with other organizations, whether they're for-profit or other cities, is we engage in an MOU that we build together, and then the team is established after that.
So with the MOUs that you've done, like what you said you worked with the school districts, I'm still curious how you worked that out. Because you said you did work for them.
I think we need to clarify, so, and tell me your name again, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So his engineering firm has done work with New Mexico entities strictly from his firm directly with the schools. Right now, he's working under being, I guess, funded or
School
paid
district.
by, right,
Where the school districts are employing us
right.
on the majority of these projects, whether US government jobs or they're.
But not Families for Philanthropy. This is on your private.
All the New Mexico projects are all through my company.
Okay.
Correct.
May I ask some
Yes.
questions, please? Most of my questions are focused on this. While I know that this is the memorandum, the sample memorandum, and I understand that it's a sample, however, I do have some questions. I guess I just don't understand right now, just before I get to the MOU. I don't understand how this works. Okay, you have two sides. You have the philanthropy side, and then you have the stuff that is paid for out of I don't know where. So that's what I would like a clarification on, okay? The school districts are working with your construction company. The school districts are using their money to pay your construction company, okay? So they don't have this same type of MOU that your sample is purporting to be something that maybe the city might use. Okay, so can you explain how all that works?
Absolutely. So number one, it's just a single MOU, and any of the companies that we work with, we engage them as an ambassador. That's what this sample MOU is describing. So as an ambassador, we're not involved in their board or making any of the decisions unless there's a project that's presented. That project then gets submitted to the special committee. Once that's put together, then we establish the criteria and establish timelines and milestones. That comes in line with funding of a specific project. So if we were to use the example of Luna versus Highlands, two different timelines, two different types of ask. Although it's in the same city with very similar overlap, it's different. The R&R is an engineering consulting firm that has worked all around, and Doug can obviously speak to that. It's a private firm. But Doug's also an ambassador, so that's why he is here today.
So the MOU would be with the Foundation for Philanthropy, and we would have to have a separate contract with the entity that is actually doing the work.
Yes, we would build that together. So it wouldn't be a separate entity. It could be a separate project coordinator, a single point of contact that reports back.
And do you find the money for that?
We do.
Okay, all of it?
Yes.
And do we have to pay you anything
No.
at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I do have the same concerns that Counselor Romero talked about with the procurement process. Okay, we do have a very specific procurement process. So I went through each section, and I have questions on each section, if you'll bear with me. I would
Sure.
appreciate it greatly. First of all, I think under the second whereas, it says Las Vegas, New Mexico is an educational institution whose mission is to develop the golf course owned by Las Vegas, New Mexico. The golf course, Las Vegas, New Mexico is not an institution, it's a government. And also, the golf course is owned by the university, not by us. Okay, and so that's just one thing, and I know that it's not,
Just a draft.
yeah, I know, it's just a draft, but still, okay,
So
the
that way you know
section,
too that's the same draft that, Highlands going this way.
okay. So, section 2 on the confidentiality, this is a non-disclosure agreement part. We have in the Inspection of Public Records Act. So we would have to get written consent from you to disclose any information about the project?
Perfectly fine. Yes. So this is a boilerplate which is meant to be added or deleted, so there's no pride in authorship. So if that non-disclosure clearly would not fit within this forum, but it does fit within a very specific project that has engaged services predicated to certain funding. Let's say it's coming from an endowment, and that endowment has certain provisions that we have to abide by, their charter, and that's why some of that language sits inside of this boilerplate.
And the only reason that I'm concerned about that too is that our state law gives us 10 days to respond to an IPRA request, and if we don't do it, then we get in trouble with the Attorney General. And so if we have to get permission from you or another entity to disclose whatever, then we don't have 10 days to wait. We have to do it right away.
That should be established inside of that special committee per project, per Tier 1 versus Tier 2. And we agree that those are concerns that should be brought to the table. And if it's more of a headache to modify that draft document, we can start with just a piece of paper and put down the bullet points, and that's what we would submit to the council members today.
Okay. Section 6, the obligations in sections 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 shall survive termination. So, to me, when you terminate a contract, that's it. It's over and done with, the end. This has the non-disclosure agreement continues after the termination of the contract. The language on the intellectual property continues after the end of the contract. The hold harmless continues after the end of the contract. Non-solicitations and non-circumvention or non-disparagement, all of those things is for 12 months. And then no business or negotiation for 3 years without involvement of the foundation. That's an awful long time for something that's been terminated. And
We
so
agree.
I'm
So the one
concerned about
example I
that.
wanted to share is if there's a grant and it's tied to an educational program that's 4 years, we don't want to just have that revoked. So if there's a scholarship, that's part of that tail. Or if we're not involved and the city or project lead is not involved, it should not affect the recipient, which in this case could be a active,
us.
could be an active member. But that it should be geared towards the language per project. But that's just one example.
Okay, section 10, it says no publicity without prior written approval of the parties. So if we wanted to let people know what we're doing, we have always been very transparent on this council. And we let people know what's happening. We don't hold back. If somebody asks us, we bring it out in the open so that we believe that our constituents and our community members need to know what's going on. So if we can't have publicity without your approval, does that mean that we would have to, let's say, send you copy of a press release and then you have to approve it before we can even publish it?
No, it's referring to once there's a project that's online, if there's a corporate sponsor that sits within that committee and has committed capital, we would want to make sure we established a process for investor relations. And that's extremely important because some certain sources of funds will allow for open public information to be shared. Others are not. It's very similar to when you make a charitable donation. It can either be a private donation or it could be a public donation. So it's really delineating between public versus private. And this is obviously a public hearing, so that would not be relevant.
Okay. The other issue that I was concerned about was successor assignments. It says the agreement is binding upon the successors and assigns. So we're all elected. And so if, let's say that at the next election cycle, for some reason or other, we're all wiped out. What if the next council doesn't want to do it? Does that terminate the contract?
The answer is, I don't know, and it depends. I don't know because in that scenario, we're right now just having a discussion. And it depends on what the committee votes on and what's being brought to the table. And this is really important that we work together on the draft. So if we always call it a school bus theory, you know, if someone gets hit by a school bus, who's at fault? Is it the bus driver, the kids that were distracting, or was it the person that was crossing the road? It depends on in every scenario, but we are here, and so we want to leave the council with some time to ask some open questions, but we're here as a nonprofit, and we would like to collaborate. We're suggesting a special committee be formed and prioritize a Tier 1 and Tier 2 system so that we can take action.
Okay. On page 5, item I, the governing law, the agreement shall be governed by and interpreted in accordance with the laws of the state of Delaware. And shouldn't it be the state of New Mexico, since this is where you're?
Yes. And
Again, that's just a draft.
Yeah, but I didn't know exactly, since you're 501c3 and that's stated in on the very first page, is in Delaware. And so I just wanted to make sure that we don't have to follow Delaware law when we're in New Mexico. Okay.
Understood, and we agree that it absolutely should be in New Mexico.
Okay. And then if, on attorney's fees, it says the prevailing party shall be entitled to recover reasonable costs and attorney's fees. So we have proceedings such injunctive relief, and that there's nothing in there that says anything about who pays what to who in injunctive relief. And then it has arbitration. In the case of arbitration, then the losing party in the arbitration pays the cost and attorney's fees. So who would pay for the injunction? The party that brings about the proceedings of the injunction would be paying that?
I'm going to request that we strike all of the legal jargon out of this document because it does come down to its boilerplate, just like force majeure,
Okay.
which is on their act of God.
That's what I wanted to know, because to me, the sample is extremely restrictive. And, you know, I know that we have to have, you know, certain items that we have to have in a contract and a memorandum of understanding. However, we need to make sure that whatever is put together needs to be done appropriately and reviewed by not just one attorney, but several. Because I want to make sure that everything is done according to New Mexico law.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I totally agree with you.
No.
And that's why I'd like to suggest that that you take that sample or do whatever you want to with it and send us something that you are agreeable with.
Can I recommend this at this point? Before we say this is just my idea. Before we say, yes, we're jumping into this with you guys, would it be fair for maybe us to create a committee to work with you to produce a memorandum of understanding, and then that at a later date would be approved by the city council?
Yes, that is our goal.
Mr. Romero?
Mr. Mayor, and
Or
I guess
unless,
I'll
I
ask,
mean,
I'll ask this question real quick. So within your 5013C, your nonprofit, have you done this type of work in New Mexico?
No, we have not.
See, and then that's kind of where we're at. You know, any redevelopment or planning or anything has to be on RFP. So we would have to put that RFP together. I just pulled up some Santa Fe one that they're doing redevelopment, and so they do an RFP. Then, of course, you know, anybody could apply, and at that point, you know, when you guys do it, then that's when we come to the MOU and the.
I got what you're saying.
So that's kind of where we have to go. We have to really put that together and.
Can I answer this just a little bit more in detail? So no, we have not completed anything as a 501c3 through our foundation, but we have done work with Families for Philanthropy with the state of New Mexico as we started the top of the call, which is the equipment for the temporary solution for the water and wastewater treatment.
Through the state?
Through the state, yes. That was our family foundation, but our nonprofit 501c3 was not established until October of last year. And that's when we achieved a platform approval of Fidelity, which is Fidelity Charitable. So that process took time. So there has been no physical dollars that have gone through our nonprofit because it's a private foundation and we only work with corporate partners that are ambassadors. But we have taken action and worked with the state, including the city of
Kind of the
Las Vegas.
frustration, and I know they had talked to their, I don't know if they're gonna bring it up this session, is that as far as redevelopment and that, New Mexico is one of the, because of the anti-donations in government entities, it's, you can't just, you know, we can't just say, okay, here's a piece of property, develop on it, right? We have to go through, so I know they've discussion about trying to, you know, clean it up a little bit because nobody wants to invest because of all the red tape and everything that they have to go through, so, I guess.
And it's not just in state law, it's in our Constitution also. So that really complicates matters, you know. If we could just say, oh yeah, let's do this, you know, but we can't. We have to follow the law. And so that's kind of where we're at, so.
Okay. Well, the best thing to do is just for you guys then to let us know when you have your MOU, or if you, whatever you guys have to do to get through this process. That's when you let us know when or if you need us then, if you need the help. How does that
Well,
sound?
we need the help, it's just we need to figure out how to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something that we can help you with. I think that's something that the city has to determine.
Right.
With legal counsel, you know, getting their opinion as to how we go
Uh-huh.
through, go about this.
Right.
And then, you know, if we do decide that the airport is going to be the development,
then we would put out an RFP to nonprofits saying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, can you develop this, and can you, you know, at no cost to the city, you know, whatever, and see who takes the bait or who wants to do it. And I'm thinking that that's probably the legal counsel we're gonna get.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I kind of read the Santa Fe one, just so you, I mean, unless you guys kind of know, you know, what we're saying on the RFP? So Santa Fe is, they're asking for RFPs for redevelopment of Midtown Performing Arts Center. So it says, the city envisions a redevelopment and operation of existing Performing Arts Center into a dynamic performance arts hub that will create, so they kind of put vague language and then kind of, I mean, and that's kind of all we have to do is we're looking for development of our airport or housing development, and then whatever proposals come in, that it kind of makes sense what
I
we're.
got you. Sort of general terms,
Yeah,
and then.
and then whoever submits, again, I mean, we could go with 5 different people, right? And then,
Okay, yeah. Mr. Montoya?
Just a couple of questions. So you answered you guys got established in October of last year as the 501c3 in New Mexico.
No, in Delaware.
Wouldn't you have to be a 501c in New Mexico in order for the city to do business with you?
No, we would not.
No, it's a federal.
Okay. And how many persons are in your board in Delaware?
How many?
How many people are in your board on the 501c? What's required in Delaware?
Oh, how many?
It depends on your articles of incorporation and your operating agreement, and we have 5.
But every state has a number.
Correct. It has to be in supermajority, and again, our operating agreement, which again is proprietary, but I'm going to answer the question, which is 5.
5. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And how many people are on the Family for Philanthropy board?
5.
Oh, okay. That's what he asked. Okay. I thought you were just doing about the.
Not to be
501c.
confused or conflicting with the ambassadors and corporate sponsors. So I think what's best if we are going to have closing remarks is that we're here. We'd like to establish a process. It sounds like the process is still going through a traditional and regulated process, which we absolutely agree with. Our goal is to establish the process together. So we submit to the council that it would make sense to just continue submitting letters to us of what is needed help, what is the top priority, and then we can heed that call as we've done so in the past.
And that would be part of it, Mr. Mayor, that we ask that we get verification on the 501c, the existence, and its where it's at right now.
Okay.
Standings. Yeah. That would be part of the RFP. Yeah. Process.
Sorry, then I have one question. Has the council worked with other nonprofits recently?
Yes.
If you could share that process with us, that would be really, I think it would save us some time and give us the ability to support.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make, I mean, don't think that, we're not, any development or anything, it just, I think, Councilor Casey said, is we just got to make sure we do this right. We don't want to come back and say, all it takes is that one nonprofit or development team that said, hey, well, we had this idea and you guys never opened it up to us. I mean, at the end of the day, we could get 5 proposals and you might have one section and somebody else, and we blow up that whole airport to where, I'm not blow it up, take that back. You know what I mean, where, we can have, so many things going on, and which would be a benefit.
So you have entertained other nonprofits to come to the table to do and to work with you as well, as what we're proposing?
No,
Not
I
in this
think when we said nonprofits,
Okay.
it's nonprofits and other aspects of.
Yeah, not anything
Yeah.
in,
We
this
do-
magnitude.
Yeah.
There's smaller nonprofits that we have.
Animal
small
shelter.
MOUs with,
Mm-hmm.
nothing of this magnitude whatsoever.
Okay.
But we still had to go through the procurement process, which kind of delays everything, but still, the Attorney General, and we have a new one, who I think is going to be more vigilant than the last, who will make sure that everything that we're doing is done the way it's supposed to be done. And so we want to make sure that we continue that.
And
I don't blame you one bit at all, but at this point, we've been here a few times already. I would hope that you had already found those things out for us, so we would be more prepared even today to present. But as soon as you guys have that, would you just let us know, so, and we can look at everything as well on our end?
Yeah, and there's, the fact that somebody wants to help our community is, for me, it's humongous. It's huge, and it's a great opportunity. These are just questions that have come up through the process. And I think Mr. Romero at the last meeting did say something about
We need to
the procurement process.
move forward.
And so, and I would just say, in my spirit of just working together and working with is that we just pump the brakes a little instead of doing the RFP, or I mean, instead of doing the MOU, and getting some legal opinions on how we go about this so that it's best for all of us and your party as well as our party. Does that sound fair?
It's y'all's decision.
Yeah, we're here to help. We're here to help, and I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And we know the need is great, and so however we can help, when the time is right.
And as the mayor said, we do appreciate that very much because we really do need a lot of assistance with so many things. We just want to make sure that we do it right so that we're not in the middle of a project and somebody says, you can't do that, and pull the plug on something that we're looking forward to having and providing for the community, so.
What kind of timeline are you thinking?
All is, I don't know, I guess we need to determine how fast
I think
our attorneys can look at things and give us some direction as to how to approach the RFP process and how to do it so that we can get it done, soon.
So
Leo and myself will work on contacting the attorneys at our place and getting advice from them on how to move forward. And then a subsequent phone call with you guys to let you know what the attorney said, and then go from there.
Sounds good.
does that sound fair?
Yes. We thank the council members for their time and anyone that's channeling in today. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good.
You're not gonna drive anywhere tonight, are you?
No, we woke up beforehand this morning to get here, and we were hopeful the snow would not hit us, but yeah, so we'll see. Good old Raton Pass is always a tricky one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna drive back in the morning.
That's a wise move.
Yeah, it's a long day of driving, 9 hours if we go back right now. So,
Yeah.
And New Mexico Highway Department is really good, especially with those problem areas. So they're probably working on it right now, and
Good.
yeah.
My wife will sleep.
Yeah.
There's
Leo, thank you.
a
Appreciate it.
website for the New Mexico Highway Department, and it shows actual pictures of the highway and how it looks, and it tells you.
NMroads.com.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you can see the camera on Raton Pass. Yeah.
I'll do that in the morning over coffee. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's the pleasure of the council. Is there a need for executive session?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session to discuss limited personnel matters, NMSA 1978-1015-1H2, discussing of hiring, promoting, demoting, dismissal, assignments, or resignations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor to go into executive session by Mr. Montoya. Second, please. Second by Ms. Casey. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Billingsley. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So are we gonna leave chambers and go someplace?
I'll entertain a motion to go into regular session.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to go back into regular session, that only personnel items were discussed according to NMSA 1978 10-15-1H-2. Discussions of hiring, promoting, demotions, dismissals, assignments, or resignations occurred. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Casey.
Mr. Mayor, and for the record, no action was taken.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second. Adjourned. So
All
be
in
it.
favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.